Hello and welcome to my pre-hospital emergency care videos. My name's Jason Sadler and I am a paramedic with the HCPC here in the UK. As a disclaimer, all of my videos are from my own education and from my own qualifications and the experience I've learned in the pre-hospital environment. Currently, I work as a lecturer in Swansea University. I also do work on the bank for the Welsh Ambulance Service, NHS Trust, as well as working for small independent companies. All of the information I'm giving is solely to do with myself and not connected in with any of those companies. Please can I emphasise, it is really important that you get yourself booked onto a registered, recognised qualification and you only work within your scope of practice. We really hope you do enjoy these videos. Please subscribe, please like, and if you would like any other videos, please send us a comment. Welcome to this video talking about the application of semi-rigid collars. Now, I'm not advertising one collar above another, so as you can see, we've got a range of different makes and styles of semi-rigid collars, cervical spine collars, often referred to as C-spine collars. Now, the important thing is you first achieve manual inline stabilisation, and this is where you might be working with a colleague, and we've done a previous video where you can see how to achieve that. In the previous video, we talked about supporting on the patient to maintain it. Now, the problem being, once we try to put the collar on, that will be in our way. So this is where our colleague may have to support the head from higher up, leaving the neck area clear. Now, the most important thing about putting on a collar is we choose the right size. Now, some of our collars are fixed collars, so that means they've got a different size each and they'll be labelled up, and we'll have a look at that in a second. And some of our collars may be an adjustable collar, so one collar fits all, but we adjust it so it fits the patient before applying it. So the important thing is our patient must be in neutral alignment. And as you can see, I've got my patient here in neutral alignment. I'm now going to measure and I'm going to look at an invisible line which is from the point of the chin coming across to the top of the trapezium, to the top of the shoulder here. And I will measure with my fingers how many fingers that is. If we have a quick look at that on the whiteboard, and I'll just move scale for a moment. So you can see here, this is the occiput here, this is the chin, this is the top of the shoulder we was just looking at. So if I take my first line, being the top of the shoulder, where my fingers are going to rest on, I'm just going to draw a straight line across there. So there's my line, which is the bottom of my fingers across the top of the shoulder. My next line is from the point of the chin. Now this is important, we don't measure anywhere else. It's always the point of the chin. So if I do another parallel line, which is on the point of the chin, and with those two parallel lines there, the actual gap we're measuring is from here down to here. So it's the gap between which is level there. This is how we get the correct size collar. So with my fingers resting on the top of the shoulder there and now coming up to the point of the chin, so on this here I would measure 3 fingers. Whether I come in from this angle or I do it from the front depends on the environment I'm in. Once I've measured my patient, the same person that measured will now measure the collars. If you've got a prefix collar, such as this one here, ignore the foam. We're only going to measure the plastic. So we always start from the bottom of the hole down to the plastic. So for me, you can see this would be 4 of my fingers to get that right. If I look at the regular size here, we've got more free fingers, so from the bottom of the hole to the plastic, ignore the foam, coming down into the short, that's probably about 2 of my fingers, and with a no neck, that's about 1 of my fingers. There are also pediatric versions. With one of these type of collars, once you've selected the correct size, so on the mannequin we decided it was 3 of my fingers, this particular collar has a little black stud. We rotate that around, and as you can see it rotates around, it's now going to locate into that hole we was measuring. So once it's in place, we can still measure from below that point down to the bottom of the plastic. Ignore the foam. You can see we've got the shape. I personally like to pre-form the collar by rolling it, and it gives us the shape of the neck ready to go on. If you have got an adjustable collar, such as this one here, we have a line which is fixed, and again we're working our measurement to the bottom of the plastic, but that piece of plastic will move by undoing these clips here, and it will move up and down. So it's this bottom edge that we're measuring to. So if I wanted 3 fingers, I start at the line, measure down, I come up till I've got the 3 fingers. I then hold that in place by locking everything down, and there I've got my regular size. To get the chin piece for this one, flip the chin piece over. Whichever collar you've got, you will end up with a little button in the middle of the chin. That is really important because we're going to place that on the chin of the patient. So my last adjustable collar, this one being a pediatric, but it comes in adult size as well. Again, it's got the button, but the chin piece is already pre-formed. This will slide up and down. Just unlock it on both sides. It will slide up and down so you can get that right location, and you get a little red light, red coloured bit in the right one. So once you've got it to the size, and it would be from that little red bit down to where you're measuring, the bottom there, lock it in place, and again you can pre-form this. The adult ones are exactly the same. Okay, let's put this collar on. So if I was working on this patient here to put the collar on, I would want to get down to skin level, so I'm going to remove the clothing. So down onto bare skin with my colleague supporting the patient in manual inline stabilisation. I'm going to hold my collar, and like we did with that manual stabilisation, I'm going to get a grip where I can come up and I'm going to put the chin on the little button in the front of the collar. So that is the right place. Holding this collar in place, I'm going to bring the shoulder pieces around. This would come all the way around for the Velcro to do up. So making sure we're happy with the distance on the front there. I'm then going to ask my patient if they can poke their tongue out. So to poke their tongue out, they'd obviously have to open their mouth. That would then show me that the collar's not too tight and they've still got an airway. Just be aware with collars, they can come up close to the ears, so be aware of things like jewellery, earrings, necklaces. There's nice and open so we can get to the carotid pulse if we needed to, but this is a nicely fitting collar on this particular mannequin. So applying a cervical collar with the patient in the prone position whilst they're laid down, you may have somebody in that manual inline stabilisation, making sure there's enough room for you to put the collar on, remembering we may have raised the head up by 2 centimetres. I could measure in the same format, so I would bring my fingers in, I would look for my fingers on the top of the shoulder to be in level, making sure it's in manual inline stabilisation. Once I've got my fingers, I would then find the collar, which is the right size for fitting that, and I'll do it on an adjustable one for you this time so you can see the difference. So I'm happy that this patient is 3 fingers, so we're going to measure from the line 3 fingers into there. Once we've got the right distance, we're going to lock this into position, form it, pre-shape it. My other colleague is at the top there holding it in neutral alignment. I'm going to get that little pin onto the top of the chin. I'm going to hold it in position here, and I can then feed the collar under the natural hollow of the neck. Bring the strap around, raise it up, hold it in place. Ask my patient, can you poke your tongue out for me? And by doing so, I know the airway is clear. Now, C-spine collars have a couple of negative effects that they can have on the patient. First of all, they can be an irritant, so the patient will fidget. If the patient's fidgeting, they're more likely to move their C-spine. So you're probably better off considering whether to loosen it or remove it altogether, depending on your actual patient. The other thing is, having this pressure around the patient, it almost acts a bit like a venous tourniquet. So the arterial blood can still get up and get to the brain, but the blood that's trying to come back out is being constricted by the collar, particularly around the back. So if it's doing that, you are going to raise intracranial pressure on your patient. So that could have a negative effect. So it's only to take all of the different elements into consideration. Just because you got the collar on doesn't mean you can let go of your manual inline stabilisation. You would have to maintain that even with the collar on until you have triple immobilised, i.e. you've mobilised all three sections of the spine, the cervical spine, the thoracic spine and the lumbar spine.